Boy, oh boy, it has been a busy and dramatic morning in the world of Nintendo and gaming news out there today. And a lot of wild happenings are going on Twitter this morning. And even I've been a little bit roped into all of this stuff. And so I figured maybe it would be a good idea for me to hop on camera and just kind of talk out my thoughts and perspective on all of this weirdness that's been happening this morning. And yes, by the way, I never do this, but I did certainly clickbait you with the thumbnail. So the thing is, it's actually a good piece of news that sparked this whole weird back and forth that's been happening on Twitter, at least from what I've seen that's been happening on Twitter this morning, because that's just kind of the circle that I run in and whatever. And it's a good thing, but there's been a reaction, and I shared my own version of this reaction as well. And so there's this whole crazy conversation going on. The quick and the dirty of it is that this morning it was announced that tomorrow there's going to be a Kirby Air Riders Nintendo Direct, a 45-minute show, which is really wild. And I will talk about that maybe near the end because I actually think that this is kind of cool. And for a game that I didn't know if I was going to care about, this is actually exactly what I want. I've said before, I played the original Kirby Air Rider on the GameCube. I did not like it or care for it, so I never revisited it. And when Kirby Air Riders 2 was announced in April of 2025, 4 months ago, I was like, okay, I like Kirby. I love Sakurai. So, and I'm excited for the Switch too, so I'm going to remain open-minded for Kirby Air Riders 2, wait to see more about the game, and there's a great chance I end up deciding to buy and play it. And so, getting a direct focus on the game that I'm not sure how I will feel is exactly what I want. I am very excited to watch this show. However, the reaction and the response by a lot of folks, myself included, okay, has been, what about Metroid Prime 4? And I'm the Metroid guy here on the internet.com. And so naturally I had my own version of this sentiment because it certainly seems weird that we're going to get significant new news and updates about Kirby, a game we don't know anything about, as opposed to Metroid, which we've known about for 8 years. It was rebooted 6 years ago, basically 2019. It was rebooted. We've already seen footage, as a lot of people use as a counterpoint, which to me is exactly why the next game we should get an update about, and by update I mean a release date, should be Metroid and not necessarily Kirby. Even though this is a smart thing, it's something I'm excited to watch. I'm all about a Kirby Direct. It's a good thing for everybody. But why Kirby before the game that was announced 8 years ago? Before the game that was rebooted 6 years ago? That's the weird thing. So just for transparency, a lot of people started reacting, some people more harshly and shittily than others. My reaction to this, I was like, what? This is crazy. And I said, okay, I guess. Nintendo, do you hate us? Do you hate me? Look, I'll watch, and I'm curious to learn more, but this is insulting at this point. What the fuck are we even doing anymore, man? That was the tweet I shared in initial response to seeing this, because clearly I was hinting at and insinuating, where is Metroid? Why are we getting the Kirby information before we get the Metroid date? The Metroid date! That is the one thing that I think most of us Metroid fans are looking for. We're not looking for, the biggest blowout and tons of footage and trailers. We're not looking for Metroid to replace every single other game on the Switch 2 slate. We just want the date for a game that they've been telling us is 2025, and we're past the halfway point of August. The runway for 2025 date announcement and release date is certainly getting short. It's not impossible, but it's getting so short that the whole thing is crazy. So here's what I'll admit, okay? I'm going to fess up to this. I can understand reading that tweet, and it's got a little bit of stank to it, yes, because I was very disappointed. So I slapped some stank on that tweet, and I could see some people getting a little bit like, why are you being so pissed about Kirby? Why do you hate Kirby? We need to know about Kirby. Metroid's not better than Kirby or whatever. To be fair, more of the intense reactions I've seen have actually been to other tweets and other people battling Metroid versus Kirby, not to my tweet, but that is the thing that I said. That's the part that I played, and some people had reactions, many people agreeing, some people disagreeing and acting like I'm being the craziest person in the world for sharing that kind of a sentiment. And so that's the gist of what's going on, because, like I said, beyond my little tweet here, a lot of people, including some fellow friends of mine and fellow Metroid friends of mine who are in the content creation space, have been sharing a similar sentiment. Like, yeah, this sucks. Like, where is Metroid Prime 4's release date? It doesn't make any sense. We're running out of time. I haven't seen anyone say they don't care about Kirby. There's just this battle that has now ensued of where's the Metroid date, or stop asking for Metroid, be excited for Kirby instead. And so I think a lot of my general feelings I've already kind of expressed here, right? It's very important to understand. Me, the biggest mega Metroid super fan on the internet, or one of, right? You guys know that's like what I'm basically known for at this point. My perspective is I don't hate Kirby. I am excited for Kirby Air Riders, or I should say I'm excited to learn about Kirby Air Riders. I'm very excited for this Direct. This is the right call. This is a game that should get a Direct. But we're clearly running out of time in 2025 to give release dates, information, and then actually release any games that are slated for 2025. And so if you're Nintendo and you've got a handful of games, I would say there's 3 games. There's Metroid, there's Kirby, there's Hyrule Warriors. You've got 3 games that you're like, okay, we need to give the next update about one of these 3 games. Kirby, Metroid, Hyrule Warriors. These are all games that we're telling people will release in 2025. Hyrule Warriors, to be fair, is winter, which means very likely could actually be early 2026. But either way, these 3 games, what's the next game that we should update the people about? And I don't know how you don't pick the game that was announced 8 years ago. And again, to be fair, if they had even just tweeted the date or released like a 1-minute trailer with some other footage, and at the end of that trailer is a date for Metroid, great. That's really all we need. That's all I'm asking for, at least. Again, I really can't speak for everyone else, and even the other Metroid fans that I will agree are being too extreme about it. I can't speak for those people. I'm speaking for me. You have these 3 games in front of you. Why not pick the game that people have been waiting for the longest? To pick the game that was announced the most recently, 4 months ago, over the game announced 8 years ago. And again, even the reboot was 6 years ago. That's the reason for some strong reactions. And that's the reason for me not being angry, not hating Kirby, but just being disappointed that between the 4-month-old game and the 8-year-old game, the next update they gave us was about the 4-month-old game. It's pretty crazy. And it's like, I also shared a tweet saying almost this exact thing. I don't think it's unreasonable for a Metroid fan or anyone who's a Nintendo fan to have been expecting the next significant update, whether it's a release date, whether it's a trailer, whether it's a Nintendo Direct, whether it's a Nintendo Today update post. I don't think it's unreasonable for any one of us to have expected the next game to get some kind of an update would be Metroid. Not because, oh, I'm the selfish Metroid fan, just give me Metroid, but like, logistically, it kind of makes the most sense because it's such an old game that we've been waiting forever for. And so that's the reason why it just feels crazy that the first game to get a big update and even its own Direct is the 4-month-old game, not the 8-year-old game. An important element to this that I don't want to leave out is that you need to kind of take like a bird's eye view look at what's been happening with Metroid Prime 4 for the 8 years that I keep referencing. I mean, this is something else I kind of joked about on a fairly recent video, but the development cycle, the information cycle, the level of secrecy, just the sheer amount of time, 8 years from announcement, 6 years from reboot, over a year since the final reveal of the first footage last year. It's been really, really crazy what's happened with Metroid Prime 4. There is no other game in Nintendo's history specifically that has gone through this kind of a development cycle. So maybe you're a non-Metroid fan who sees a lot of people who are Metroid fans having strong opinions about the lack of date, the amount of time it's taken, the amount of secrecy, yada, yada. And that's fine. Obviously, I can't tell you to be a Metroid fan, but I feel like as game fans, we should be able to objectively look at this and say, the Metroid Prime 4 development and information situation specifically is so unique and so outside of the norm. Imagine if your favorite franchise and a game you were this excited for went through the same thing. You would be freaking totally freaking out. Like, what's going on? Just dying for information. It feels like those of us who are Metroid Prime fans have been wasting away in a desert of like no information. And so, again, this is something I said on a recent video. Like, I myself try not to be an entitled kind of Metroid fan. I'm actually pretty patient. I've even said I don't need the game to release this year. It's just a matter of wanting the date. And so in trying to not be an entitled Metroid fan and game fan that just says, give me what I want right now because I want it right now, I also think it's fair to look at the Metroid Prime 4 situation in its own bubble and say, this is fucking insane. It's crazy how long it's taken for fans to get updates, to get footage. And yes, we did finally get that footage, which is great. And now we're still being told, don't worry, guys, 2025. It's 2025. It's coming out soon. But again, it's late August, and we've been waiting for an update on this game, just the release date. Again, not footage, just the release date. And instead, we get information and an update about a 4-month-old game. By comparison, it's nuts. And I just think that that is an important element to add here. I'm not trying to be a selfish, entitled person that says, gimme, gimme, gimme. But again, the Prime 4 situation is so batshit insane that I think we can objectively say it kind of sucks what Metroid fans have had to go through just waiting for information about a release date for this game. And I also said this earlier too, because a lot of people have been making the point, and I understand why they make this case, that like, look, we've seen a few trailers for Metroid Prime 4. We have 17 minutes of treehouse footage. So you've seen a bunch of Metroid already. So now it's time for Kirby's time to shine and see footage of Kirby. And on the very surface level, I agree that if we're just talking about showing footage of a game, yes, it's more important to see footage of Kirby because we haven't seen any. And yes, we have a lot of footage of Metroid. That part is true. But again, and I guess I can't speak for the crazy people on the internet, but speaking for myself and a lot of us, it's not footage we're looking for. It's the release date. I literally made a video recently about Nintendo's last investor update, and they still have on their calendar Metroid Prime 4 with a 2025 date. It doesn't have an exact date. It just says the year 2025. Bro, August is going to be over in less than 2 weeks. So, like, I guess I don't know how many other ways I can explain this, but, like, it's not about footage. It's just about, couldn't you have given us a date this week or even last week and then announced the Kirby Air Riders Direct? And, like, other people are mentioning a Metroid Prime 4 Direct is likely, and I agree with that. I've said it before. And maybe the Metroid Direct happens a week or two after the Kirby Direct this week. Okay, that's fine. But to have been waiting for the date so long and then to see Kirby get the update instead of Metroid, that's the reason I think for the initial strong reactions. Anyway, I think I've explained that to the best I can. I'm a little bit animated here. I took an early lunch so I could make this video because this whole thing is just insane. And I was like, I want to chime in about this a little bit here. And again, it was very important for me to mention, again, speaking for me, I'm not mad at Kirby. I'm not against Kirby. I'm excited for this Direct. It's just the choice to do Kirby before Metroid, given how old one game is versus the other. Like, it's just insane. But I'm going to watch this Direct. I'm excited for it. So let me just spend a couple of minutes quickly talking about this because there's a couple things I want to bring up. The tweet that Nintendo shared about the Direct, they say, join us on August 19th at 6 a.m. Pacific time, which is my time, for a Kirby Air Riders Direct with director Mr. Sakurai. The live stream presentation will last roughly 45 minutes and provide an in-depth look at the upcoming Nintendo Switch 2 game. So, again, let's take the Metroid stuff out of it for the last few minutes here. That's cool. That's exciting. I can't wait to see this because I hope to learn that this game will be enticing to me. And even though the original game didn't excite me at all, I hope to learn that the sequel is going to excite me. And it's like, great, I have another fantastic first-party Nintendo game to purchase for my brand new Switch 2. That's what I want, and it's even what I expect. Now, a couple people have pointed this out. 45 minutes dedicated to a Kirby Air Riders game is insane because the Donkey Kong Direct and the Mario Kart Direct were only 15 minutes. Kirby Air Riders, in theory, is probably going to be a simpler game than something like Donkey Kong Bonanza, for example. So what do they have that fills up 45 minutes worth of a Direct? So here's my theory and here's my prediction for this direct. And I think some people who are complaining or confused about the 45 minutes, you should consider this. I think two things are going to happen. One, I think a lot of time in this 45 minutes is probably going to be dedicated to interviews, to developer interviews, specifically Sakurai, other members of the team, and probably a couple of little documentary style montages about the initial inspiration for the idea of a sequel, and some concept art, and the teams and interviews, and Sakurai just talking about, I love Kirby. I love the first Kirby Air Riders. Now I get to make the sequel. The Switch 2 is really great. It's going to be better. So interspersed with probably footage of the game and actual gameplay details and maybe details about an online mode, I think there's going to be like 15 or 20 minutes that is also just going to be interviews. So I think we need to prepare ourselves. It's not 45 minutes of gameplay is not what I think we're going to get. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't think so. I think it's going to be footage, gameplay details, and I think it's going to be developer and Sakurai interviews. And because the Kirby DLC for the Forgotten Land comes out like in, I think it's like 10 days. I want to say it's the 28th. I think that they might have a couple of minutes also just dedicated to that. So that's another guess. Who knows? But I feel like it makes a lot of sense for them to spend some time on the, what is that called? Star-Crossed Worlds? I sure can't remember. I'm sorry, guys. I'm even very excited for that DLC, and I can't remember what it's called. But that's what I think. We're going to get 15, 20 minutes of gameplay. It's going to be 15, 20 minutes of developer and Sakurai interviews. And, 5 or some odd minutes of just some information to help promote and hype up the DLC coming out for Kirby in like 10 days, like I said. So yeah, like I said, Metroid stuff aside, I am excited. This is cool. Like I'm looking forward to learning about this game because it's only a win for me to have another game to be excited for to play on my Switch 2. And I say this as a person who did not enjoy the original Kirby Air Rider. Like, I thought it was just kind of boring and simple, and I played it, what was it, 2003 maybe when that game came out for the GameCube, and I was like, nah, not for me. Kirby's fine, but I just didn't care for it. So yeah, so I'll wrap this up now, and I hope that everything I said made sense. The Metroid versus Kirby thing is crazy. Yes, there are people being extreme and shitty on the internet, but like, the true essence of this debate, quote unquote, comes down to the fact that it's crazy that the next update we got is about a really recently announced game and not even the date of an 8-year-old game. Again, I'll say it to end this video. It's not new footage for Metroid Prime 4 we've been asking for. It's just the damned release date. So that's why it was a shock to see Kirby get the announcement before Metroid. But believe it or not, I'm not angry. And I know I said that, I think, earlier. Again, not speaking for others, speaking for me. I'm not angry. I'm not pissed. I'm just disappointed. And also, I was surprised. That's really what it comes down to. And yeah, I said it was insulting. And so I used hyperbole in a tweet, so I understand how some people could interpret that. That's my bad. Maybe I shouldn't have used that word. But it's also kind of true. It is a little bit insulting that we didn't get the date for Metroid 8 years old before we get the Kirby Air Riders direct. Like, it's just crazy. So anyway, I don't know. Hopefully this makes sense to everybody. Trying to be rational here and both be passionate about Metroid but understanding about Kirby. Maybe it came across in this video. Maybe it didn't. Who knows? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.